There are 4,218 PS2 games, and I'm beating every one of them. I've got to own the game because I'm playing everything on the original hardware, but I've beefed it up with a RetroTink 5X, some component cables, and more to come soon. Can I do this before I die of old age? I hope so. iNinja was developed by Argonaut Games and released for the PS2, GameCube, Xbox, and PC in 2003 and 2004. Critics gave the game average review scores, citing things like personality, gameplay, and controls as high points. Ninja was even included in the top 10 Ninja game characters in 2010. Can I beat this crazy Ninja game? If you're wondering about the thumbnail, Billy West is the voice of Fry and Zap Brannigan from Futurama, one of my favorite animated TV shows, and he voices Ninja in this game, so I absolutely love that he does that. He does a great job voicing him, it's super fun. Anyway, let's go on to the journey. iNinja is about a ninja who has to fight a bad guy named Odor, and he's helping his sensei collect these rage stones. It's the only way he's going to be able to beat Odor, because the rage stones gave him enough power to be able to do so. However, this very first rage stone he gets makes him go crazy, and when he does, he accidentally chops his sensei's head off completely and kills him. Honestly, the sensei is okay with it because eventually he'll get powerful enough to resurrect him. I'm not really sure. Anyway, once we beat Odor, we'll be able to save him, and we'll be able to have saved the entire world. So, we begin here at this beach where the first rage stone he needs us to collect is. And this is how the game works. As you go through each hub area, you'll have several different levels you need to play. Every time you beat a level, you'll get a point towards your next color of belt. Just like in real life when you are getting colors of belts, he gets points and then you'll be able to get the next color up, and each time you get the next color up, you'll be able to do more challenges. And really what this means is that some levels have challenges that are gated behind the color of belt you have. So you need to get enough points to be able to get there to get the belt. Before we talk about the level structure, let's talk about how he controls, because iNinja actually controls pretty well. It's a very smooth animation-wise, and he jumps, double jumps. He can even do a little sword helicopter that he flies around with. He does some regular attacks. He also is able to use a grappling hook and run along some walls, which are all things you'd expect a ninja to be able to do. He's also able to pick up throwing weapons that he can throw at enemies, and they all do a couple different things. One of them explodes, one of them kind of tracks on the enemies. Although they aren't absolutely necessary all the time, some levels do need you to hit flying enemies in the air, and this will make it a lot easier to do. Instead of having to jump off of walls and try and hit them with your sword, it's just easier to use these like darts and shurikens. Okay, so here's how each of the levels works. Each level has several different points you can achieve to get towards your next belt. At the bottom of the screen you can see the black belt, and I'm working towards just a challenge coin, but just assume that I'm working on any belt and it goes to the next belt by getting enough points. And you can see each level has several different points they can gather, and each one has different goals. The very first goal of each level is to just go from the start to the finish, doing little challenges, platforming, killing enemies, maybe a couple things here and there you have to activate. But in the end, it's just get from the start to the end. After you finish that first goal, you then get copy goals for every single stage, which is a little boring. It's not every single one. There's a couple that have slightly different goals, but it's very far and few in between. So what that means is, after you beat that first goal, the next time you play the stage, you'll be doing something like gathering red coins, and they'll hide red coins all over the level, and to beat it, you can't just get from start to finish, you've got to find all the red coins. Then the next one is going to be kill a certain number of enemies. Then the next one will be beat the stage in this certain amount of time, and that's with almost every single level. The problem I have with this is that you'll be seeing a stage the same way over and over again, and you'll be completing it in almost the same fashion, except for adding on a time limit or an enemy kill number or just gathering red coins. So you don't get to do anything else unique. You don't get to see anything else special in the stage. Although I suppose when you're gathering the red coins, they've hidden them around. Maybe you have to find a new little section of the level that you didn't really go into because, well, there doesn't look like there's anything over there. However, it just doesn't add enough. And I really wish it was more like something, like Super Mario 64, where you have one big stage with several stars, and you gather the stars in any order you want, and you get to see all these new challenges, whereas this one is just the same stage beginning to end over and over, and you have to do it each time, on top of whatever goal they want you to finish. Luckily, it's only a little bit frustrating. It's not that terrible. I do wish there was a little bit more to it than that, but whatever, it's fine. So during these levels, you'll be collecting coins, and the coins will go towards being able to complete other challenges outside of this, like going in, once you complete an area, once you complete a hub area, you can actually pay to do special challenges that are both shorter, although sometimes a little harder, but you also get points towards your next belt. At the end of each level, you get to see all the stuff you collected. By collecting coins, it will bank those coins away for you to use later. It'll also give you the point that you got for your next belt, but you also get upgrades to your weapon by just killing enemies. And that will really help because you need to get stronger, because enemies get stronger as the game progresses. So eventually you'll need your ranks bank to be high enough to get you the stronger weapons, otherwise you just won't be able to kill people or bosses quick enough. Now, I'm not going to go over every single level and every single goal for all the stages, mostly because once you see a level, you'll be doing the same thing over and over until you complete all the goals and get enough points. But I will talk a little bit generally about each of the different hub areas or some of the different levels and what they do. Such as this level in the very first hub area here, you've got to sneak past these red bots because if they catch you, they will send you back to the beginning of the stage, which during the timed missions kind of suck because obviously you don't have enough time if they're going to keep capturing you. So you gotta really avoid those big red circles they spit out. I like this section here where you get to run across the walls to get to different platforms and get all the coins. Especially during the red coin missions, you'll have to try and find unique ways to find the red coins underneath platforms or hanging out in the area in places you didn't expect to find them. This mission here has me holding onto a ball and having it roll, kind of like Katamari Damacy, but you just can't, you don't pick anything up, you're just dodging things and dodging laser walls and trying not to fall in these pits. It's kind of fun, but it's really easy to die. There are some sections where you do some light rail grinding, although in this game it's not necessarily too difficult, nothing like Scalar or Jak and Daxter, but there are these cool sections where you get to run down these different pathways and you've got to use your grappling hook to chain yourself around corners because, you know, he can't turn around himself, which is kind of fun. I like doing these ones, especially on the timed ones. You really got to whip around those corners to make it through quick enough. Enemies throughout the game will spawn because of these red spheres that hang up in the air, and they will spawn until they're all gone. The red sphere will drop, and you can break it for a bunch of coins you can use later. But they also do affect parts of the level, like the only way to get through this door was to break this red sphere. To take on bosses and new challenges in each of the levels, you'll see a force field over the door that's a color of the belt you need to actually do it. So once you are able to get the yellow belt, we can now fight the boss of this area. And especially because this area has you collecting parts for this big robot that you have to use to fight the boss, which is pretty cool. But you'll see this everywhere. Everywhere will have force fields that will show you what color belt you need to actually progress in the level. These first set of stages feel very much like a tutorial, so they aren't very hard, at least the very first goal isn't very hard, and so we'll see some more of these levels later when I have to get more points desperately, because as the levels get harder, the goals get harder as well, so you'll want to go back to the early stages to get as many points as you can before attempting the harder missions, because later on in the game, some of these missions take a long time, and you want to go back and do the shorter ones so you can get enough points to beat the game. Okay, so the first boss is actually really fun. You get to be in this big robot, which isn't very ninja-like, but who cares? You get to fight by dodging and weaving left and right and up and down, left jabbing, right jabbing, doing some uppercuts on this dude, and it's super fun. I really didn't expect something like this in this game. He's got a couple phases, and he's like this cute mecha gnome, and obviously he does things like holding up his hand to block, and you got to hit him in the face. You know, this isn't Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, but it feels a little bit like it. You can get the feel for it as you go along. And then as his health goes down, he'll back up and you got to start dodging his projectiles because you can't hurt him in this mode, so you just have to wait until he comes back. And the dodges are really, really fast, so you have to get used to the depth of where his projectiles are actually at before you just start throwing out dodges like crazy. Once you beat the boss, the area is complete and you get the next Rage Stone, which gives you some new abilities. And you have 4 different abilities that Ninja can use. This first one is practically just a damage increase. Once you get your meter high enough, your rage meter by fighting, you will be able to use it and get more damage off, which obviously is good for bosses, but it's not the only one you get. So once you get the better ones, I mean, in my opinion, they're better, you'll find that they're more useful, or at least I found them more useful. Once the cutscene is over, we get access to a new hub area with new levels, and then we can go back and forth in between any of the previous hub areas, and we can go to those levels and do whatever we want. And this one will also have force fields over the doors where we need a certain belt to get through, so we'll need to slowly make our way through the points until we get a high enough belt to continue to challenge the game. In this new hub area, I try one of the new missions, and it's a turret section, which is very unlike a ninja to be doing this, but hey, it's something we gotta do. So I start shooting some boats, and there's only 2 goals. The first goal is to just complete the mission. The second goal is to get a certain score multiplier at the very top, about 50,000. It's not too hard, but it is kind of fun to break up the difference between running around doing ninja stuff and then doing a turret section, I guess. Before I try and check out any of the other missions, I come back to the first hub area and find this guy, who I give money to, and he lets me try a new challenge. Just like I said earlier, every time you beat a hub area, one person will be waiting for you with a couple new challenges. These challenges kind of remind me a little bit of Monkey Ball, these short little puzzles where you pretty much ride on a ball or run down these slopes and you have to beat it in a short time limit. All of them ask you to find things like red coins while you're going around this, and there are more red coins than you need, so collecting more than that really doesn't do much. But collect 12 in this one and beat it in 1 minute and 10 seconds, and I beat it, and I get a free point for my next belt. The second challenge is a little harder. I have to ride on this ball, just like Monkey Ball, like I was saying. I still gotta collect the red coins, and I still have to make it down these slopes in time. Now that I've beaten this first hub area and I have a higher level belt, I can come back to these old missions and do those second challenges. This one has me beating the level in a certain time limit. This is a level I've already beaten, so it's kind of fun to come back to see it, but again, frustrating that it's not brand new, it's more of just the same. Here is one of my favorite ninja rage moves, which is the ninja heal. Because you do get healing in some of the levels, it's just not very often. And sometimes the enemies overwhelm you and you lose a lot of health. So when you get your rage bar high enough, you're able to use the ninja heal, which he just screams, "Ninja heal!" and then you get healed up around half or a little bit more of half than your health. And it's extremely helpful as the game goes on, because once the levels start to get too long, it's tough to beat them without dying. In the new hub world, I find a mission where I have to ride on a barrel and it's full of gunpowder, which you can imagine if I hit these fire jets, they will make it explode right on top of my dude. Now, you don't die immediately. You can go back and get the barrel again. And during the first attempt at this quest, because you're not timed or have any certain objectives other than to just get to the end, you can just go back and get the barrel as many times as you want. But when you come back and do the secondary goals, like beating it in the time limit, then you really cannot die or get hit by any of these fire jets, or the mission's pretty much over. This next mission's kind of fun. You have to follow this fuse that's slowly going through the level, and if it gets to the very end, it will blow up the medallion for getting the next belt, and you can't let that happen. So you've got to beat this fuse all the way back to it before it blows it up. So before the secondary goals happen, where you have to beat the level in a time limit, you must kind of beat this in a time limit. You got to keep up with this fuse, which is kind of fun, you know? The problem is that you can't really kill a lot of enemies at this point, because if you stop, you have to fight them, and those things, the fuse will continue to go. But there is a secondary goal where you have to fight enemies and kill them along with beating the level, just like any of the other levels. The problem is, of course, you got to kill them quick, because the fuse moves quick. This one is very hard to do the secondary goals in, and I don't recommend doing it if you don't have to. I do happen to get all of the medallions for the next belt, and once I do, I unlock the boss, which is this big mechanical fish thing, and you get in a sub and you fight it, and it's a weird mechanic. Like, they have little crates dropping and things dropping on top of you, and it's the one time you get to ride in this sub and fight this thing. He's really not that difficult, and once you beat him, the hub area is over and you get access to the next hub area. After this cutscene, we finally get our next Rage Stone, which allows me to ride on an enormous shuriken that will constantly hit enemies around me. Now, it is a pretty cool one, but I really don't use it that often because you do have a couple other options for things to do. Plus, enemies really aren't that big of a deal going through the game, so either healing or the very last Rage Stone, in my opinion, is the best one. So it's cool, but this person does allow us to do some challenges when we come back to this hub area. In the new hub area, I do some new missions, and one of them has us revisit the stealth robot section, where we've got to avoid these guys or we get caught and get thrown back. Of course, during the secondary goal of time limit, this really sucks, so you don't want that to happen. You just gotta figure out their pattern and get around them without getting caught. Otherwise, it's a much bigger level with more of these guys. See, the last one in the first hub area was really just an introduction. It didn't have a lot of that around the area. It was very few of those robots you had to dodge. This one is much, much bigger, and pretty much every spot in this level has you dodging these robot guys. Sometimes when you're going through a stage, you'll get into this cool anime-style battle with another enemy. Now these guys are very special. These are the only times you'll do this, are these guys. And you have a couple options of dodging left and right or backward and forward, and then 2 attacks. A close range attack or a zoom forward to smash into him attack. Now the idea here is to try to get close to him, dodge his attack, and attack him with the normal attacks. As you see here, it does the most damage. If you have to do the zoom forward attack, it does do damage, but it doesn't do as much. So you can finish the battle quicker if you hit him with the regular style attacks, but it is harder. Obviously, you've got to get in closer, and he can hit you pretty easily. So you've got to really pay attention, dodge his attacks, and get those attacks off. Most of these stages go through the normal process of just fighting some dudes, collecting coins, maybe a few goals here or there. I do fight this much bigger guy who blocks and you have to wait for him to stop blocking. He will do an area of effect attack you've got to kind of dodge, otherwise it does do a lot of damage to you. This section in this stage here has you throwing those darts that you can pick up, the shurikens or the darts, at these bugs in the air, and killing them gets you some pedestals that will come up and get you some extra items you can pick up. There's also at the very end of this stage a large bug that I thought we were supposed to go fight as maybe a mini boss, but instead you just fire a rocket from the other area into this one and it will hit it and it will pretty much just end the mission. I was kind of expecting a boss fight, but nope, you just blow this dude up with a missile and it's all over. Although the rest of the stage is being inside of these trees or on top of these trees, going around trying to find your way through each different platforming area, which is kind of fun, I suppose, but I do wish I was able to fight that thing. Okay, I've gotten enough for my next belt, and now I can fight this boss, which I'm in this big mecha suit. Apparently every boss fight's just gonna be me in some kind of big suit or vehicle of some sort fighting them, and I mean, admittedly it's kind of fun, you know, it's a gimmicky boss fight for each one, but it's not bad gimmicks, you know, they aren't unfun because they really wanted to try something new. It's more like a slight new thing they're trying, but it's kind of fun, you know, it's not difficult. I'm able to beat most of the bosses about the first or second time if I mess up too much. Otherwise, this boss fight is fun, it's just over kind of quick. Once I beat him, I get another cutscene and I get the last Rage Stone as I'm about to head into the last area of the game that contains Odor, the big bad guy. Now this stone gives you invincibility when you use it. You have to have a full rage bar, but once you do, it practically zaps everyone around you with lightning and, of course, makes you invincible. So obviously this one's gonna be pretty desirable because you can't die and it will just kill people for you. I mean, it's super simple. I like this one. Next hub area, but we got some pretty familiar type missions with these robots again that we gotta sneak past. Now, again, they aren't that difficult. You can pretty much fudge your way through it. You don't have to like crouch and walk slowly and wait for patrols. A lot of the time I'm pretty much just jumping around corners or waiting in funny spots and then just jumping past them. They aren't necessarily difficult. I just don't like stealth sections that much, and that'll mean something when we get to Metal Gear Solid. I do come back and do some more of the challenges in the different hub areas, and man, these things are getting pretty tough. I can see why they're considered to be challenges. You've really got to do things precisely, or in this case, this red orb will touch me and kill me instantly. So I've got to whip around these corners, and if I don't do it, it catches me and kills me. As I said, I am in the last hub area, so I spend time doing each of the missions available to me once here, because the challenges on these levels are long and difficult. Just to let you know, it's probably easier to go back and do missions and goals at the earlier stages. Otherwise, it's just gonna take a long time. Obviously, some people want to do the game 100%, which completely makes sense. But if you're just going to beat the game, don't do the extra goals on these. Don't do the extra challenges. They are freaking hard, man. There's just a lot to them. I spend a lot of time getting all of the challenges done I can, and I get to my black belt. And as you can see at the bottom, there's a special medallion. It's just a challenge medallion. It's all of the rest of the medallions from the levels you haven't done yet. So if you collect them, you can do some special things, I think, at the end, but it's nothing to do with getting to the credits, which is what I'm doing. So I get all of them together, and I head in to fight Odor. Before the battle begins, Ninja calls him Stinky, which his name is Odor, so of course he smells. He's got these green stink things coming out of him too, so whatever. But he has this green circle on his stomach that you gotta hit. And you can't hit it very easily standing still unless you use a vertical slice, which, I mean, it's not like something I always am able to choose. I don't know how to do the vertical slices on purpose, but if you jump a little in attack, you'll hit it every time. So it takes a minute to find a nice pattern because he has a melee hit that does do a wide area of effect. You've got to be careful. It almost always hits you if you're close, so you've got to back off. So the best thing to do is to attack him, let him do his projectile attack, and then come in for the hit. Let him push you back, do the projectile hit, which is easy to dodge, and come in for the hit. Once I do that several times, his first phase is over. His last phase is a bit more difficult. He stands in the center of this big platform and will knock you really far away, especially when you're hitting him and he can't hit you, so he doesn't want you to stand there. He has a couple of attacks that you've got to dodge, and once you get in close, you just learn how to dodge them and you hit him in the stomach like you did before. And he's really not that hard of a boss. The bosses are not the hard part of this game. Honestly, you can get by getting hit a couple times and doing a boss in 1 or 2 goes, whereas some of the challenges take maybe 10 to 15 minutes to really get down what you need to do and maybe what you need to perform to finally get through it. I may have died here a couple times, but honestly, this guy isn't too bad. Once we beat Odor, we get the last Rage Stone, which is apparently kind of like granting me one wish. I don't know why Odor wasn't using the wish granting himself. I don't know if you just have to have all the Rage Stones or not. I'm not sure I remember correctly, but hey, in the end, I get a wish, and I want to wish for myself to be the best ninja in the whole entire world, like be the most powerful. And our master tries to convince us, like maybe that's not the best, maybe practice and learning will get you there, but maybe someone who you've done wrong to, like killed, maybe you can bring them back to life. And Ninja does finally relent and brings his master back to life. And then he tries to teach more lessons, and Ninja's like, no, I'm not gonna learn no more lessons. And that's it. That's the end of the game. Game number 81 completed. I really enjoyed this game. Now, this game didn't have like a lot of story or anything too crazy going on. It was solid gameplay with some solid action platforming and abilities, and it was just a fun time. So thank you so much, Gara, for suggesting this game. And Gara was promised to get this game after I beat it, and I did. I sent it to him and he received it, so now he can play his childhood favorite game again. So that was wonderful. I would give this game a solid 8. I think it wasn't anything crazy special, but it didn't do anything to break the mold, but it was really fun. It was just like a solid game. And again, for me, scores are a lot different. I don't score an 8 as something that's like kind of fun and no. For me, an 8 is a really good, solid game. A 9 is close to perfect, and a 10 is practically a perfect game. And there aren't many I'll give 10s to. So just know that my scoring system really does mean something. And an 8 is a wonderful score for a game like this. So please, if you would ever have a chance to play this game, it's not an expensive game to get, and it's pretty fun to play. You can beat it in a couple days of just playing around, having a good time, and 100% of the game is totally worth it. Seems kind of fun. So thank you so much, everyone, for watching me beat game number 81. Thank you for watching the video. I appreciate it. Anyone who stayed long in the stream and helped me figure things out and had a good time, thank you so much. Also, thank you to all the memberships, YouTube, Twitch, Patreon, everything. Everyone, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. I will be back for game number 82 soon. Later.